The man himself.
Welcome to my apartment. One of many apartments.
This is one of your many apartments. Huh?
Welcome to New York. They say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And especially in an apartment like this, we're getting a little taste of the upper crust of what it would be like to make it here in New York.
Yeah, you just want to get to work.
Want to get a place like this.
Yeah. A lot of Korean people wonder about how much apartments in New York City really cost, and I thought you were the right person to ask. You visit thousands of New York apartments for your content, so here we are.
But as you can see, this is as top as it gets in New York as far as apartments. This is the upper echelon of spaces you can get. Let's get nice and comfy here.
Alright. 오늘 제가 굉장히 좋아하는 뉴욕 유튜버를 보셨는데요. 에릭 커너버입니다.
Hello, my name is Eric Conover and I'm a YouTuber here in New York City.
우리가 이제 뉴욕에 온다 그러니까 많은 궁금해 분들이 뉴욕의 집값에 대한 컨텐츠를 만들어 달라고 하셨어요. 근데 제가 뭐 뉴욕 집값에 대해서 별로 아는 게 없기 때문에 일단 우리가 알고 있는 영화나 드라마 속 캐릭터의 집이 진짜 뉴욕에서 살려면 월세가 어느 정도 되는지, 그리고 한국 집값과 뉴욕 집값을 비교해보는 컨텐츠를 수천 개의 뉴욕 아파트를 투어해본 에릭 커너버와 같이 만들어 보려고 합니다. A lot of Korean people are curious about New York real estate. And as a house tour YouTuber, you visited thousands of New York apartments at all different price ranges. So we wanted to see, is New York as expensive as people say it is?
I say yes, but it comes with a different spin. So the job market here is much more competitive. So the salaries are a bit higher than elsewhere in the States. So it sort of balances out, but recently the prices have been pretty crazy.
So a lot of Korean people know about New York City through Sex and the City.
So my girlfriend's obsessed with the show, and I actually watched a few seasons with her.
Okay.
And I was entertained. Pretty accurate to that slice of life of that upper echelon of creatives. So they're all pretty wealthy in the show.
Okay.
Which right off the bat, that's not quite normal, but there are people like that in New York for sure.
Another show that was really popular was The Gossip Girls.
Yes.
So we'll look at some of the apartments that were in these TV shows, and you can give your expert opinion. Okay, so the first apartment is Carrie Bradshaw's apartment from Sex and the City. I'm sure you know it.
1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. I believe it's in a walk-up building from the show. I remember that.
Okay, I have an exterior photo, so...
Okay, so it's a brownstone. So I believe in the show it's in the Upper East Side.
245 East 73rd Street, New York City.
Yes, that's right.
But it doesn't look like a brownstone from Upper East Side. Actually, the rear apartment, I believe, is in Chelsea.
That's what I was thinking. It's either, so the Upper West Side has a lot of brownstones, or Chelsea.
Could you explain what a brownstone is? Because in Korea, there is a luxury condominium, which is branded as brownstone because Korean people have heard about brownstones.
So the brownstone is just basically the type of material that it's built with. It's a brownstone. Typically, there are 5 floors, but they're walk-ups, meaning they don't have elevators, most of them. They're pre-war, so built before, I guess that would be 1940 something.
Okay, before World War II.
Yes, that's right. They're more of that kind of, when you think of New York, that very homey, warm style. Typically, they are broken up where you would have a resident on each floor, but then sometimes it's one owner for the whole townhouse.
Okay, wow. Yeah. That's what the interior shot looks like, the bedroom and the living space. So, your guess. What's the rent on Carrie Bradshaw's apartment in 2023?
For a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom in the Upper East Side, I think it depends how close she is to Central Park. So the closer to Central Park, the higher the rent. And I believe this is pretty close to Central Park, so I'm going to say this is close to $5,000 per month.
With the utilities?
With hot water and heat usually is included. Sometimes it's not. So electric you would have to pay for more. Internet you'd have to pay for, but heat and hot water is included.
So somebody in Carrie Bradshaw's position, an aspiring columnist in the fashion world with a part-time engagement for writing, can she afford this apartment or not?
If she has rich parents. I mean, it's interesting because in that show, I know her character arc, she starts off very, in the beginning and then strikes it big and does really well for herself and keeps the same apartment. I don't think she would nowadays. I mean, she'd have to be, I guess, an influencer nowadays and do some brand deals or something. Right.
The show came out back in 1995.
Yeah.
Do you think it was more realistic back then that somebody in our position would be able to afford it?
Yes, 100%. I actually saw on the train here, I was watching a video saying that from 2000 to now, so the past 20 years or so, the cost of a home has gone up 150%. While wages in the States have only increased around 26%. The balance of what people are earning to how much these homes are costing is way out of whack right now.
So yesterday I was walking through Chelsea And I actually walked in front of the brownstone where Sex and the City was filmed. And that's where I got the idea to show this to you. If this apartment was in Chelsea, how much would that be?
Because, you know, the Upper East Side, Chelsea, they're desirable neighborhoods. So it would be in that 4,000 to 5,000 range. Depends also what area in Chelsea. So if you're in Chelsea by 7th Avenue and 23rd Street, a place will be cheaper than if you're in, say, West Chelsea and you're closer to the river or the High Line. Also to note, a rule of thumb when you are renting, you have to typically earn 40 times the monthly rent.
Yeah, I remember that from when I was living in New York. So $5,000 multiplied by 40 would be 200 grand.
Yeah. Or you would have to have a guarantor, which would then have to make 80 times, which would be 400,000.
Okay. So either Carrie is making more than 200 grand a year or has parents or relative who live in tri-state area who's making more than 400 grand a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Nowadays, recently, I'd say since the pandemic, it's all just influencers moving to New York City, which then paints a very unrealistic view of what life is like here for the majority of people.
The view of New York City I had when I decided to move to New York back in '99 was Allen Ginsberg living in tenement building and, you know, next to Tompkins Square Park. So I had a pretty realistic expectation.
And that's what it was like for me. I actually lived on, I was on 125 and Malcolm X up in Harlem when I first moved here, which is not the nicest neighborhood. It's changing a lot. Then I was in the Upper East Side, but not the nice part where Carrie was. I was so way up in the upper corner there, and then slowly moved downtown. So that does still exist. Those.
Yeah. And part of the charm of New York is there's that and there's this.
It's my favorite city because of that.
Yeah, the range is so big. So this is from the movie Intern. Anne Hathaway is a successful startup CEO living in Brooklyn. Which area of Brooklyn would roughly look like that?
I think that would be Park Slope, I would say. Another area with a lot of brownstones. Look at that fireplace. You can even tell by the fireplace that's an original marble fireplace.
Okay, wow, that's a nice detail.
Probably be built, you know, 1890, early, like 1910-ish.
So that's pre-World War I even.
Yes. So even in the kitchen. So that's these old brownstones, a lot of them, if they are townhouses, every room will have a fireplace. Because when they were built, that was how you heated the home. There was no water heating.
Okay. And does that command a premium when you have that?
Nowadays, those features everyone keeps in. Typically, even if they were to renovate the whole thing, they would keep in that original fireplace just because they want to keep that old feeling with the newer touches.
Okay.
If this is a townhouse, which I think it is, so she would own all the floors, anywhere from 5 to 7 million.
5 to 7?
Maybe even more. It really depends on the exact area and how many floors and all of that.
So we're going up.
Yes.
And eventually we'll get here.
We're going up.
Now I became curious. So why do you think in movies, these characters all live in brownstones and not like penthouses like this one?
It's funny you say that because I think the brownstone is more relatable. And these places are more aspirational. If you want a character to be more relatable to the audience, they live in a brownstone, which would be like a normal house. Whereas, you know, you could get a $3 million, same price point spot in a high rise. So this is, I think, to paint the picture of the reality. If someone wants to feel like they've, you know, made it, they'll probably get a place up high with a nice view. If someone has a family, say, and kids, and they want to feel more like they have that home feeling, they would get a brownstone.
The final character who actually is an upper class character, so that's Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl, on a 5th Avenue apartment that looks like this.
Okay.
When I first came to New York City, I was, you know, a high school kid in Michigan, and then I came to New York City for the first time in 1994 to visit.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 42.
I thought you were like 28. You look great for your age. You were saying 94. So I'm like, wait, I was like 5 years old in 94. Wow. You look great. Whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
So you came in 94.
Yeah, and then we decided to walk up 5th Avenue because we wanted to see how rich Americans live. We should walk up 5th Avenue. And I saw all these buildings with these gilded awnings that stick out onto the street like this. I thought it was very theatrical. There were doormen, 19th century butler costumes, hailing cab for, I guess, the millionaires that live inside.
So this is old money New York. It was called Millionaires Row way back in the day. So when they had the commissioner's plan and they turned Manhattan into a grid, everyone wanted to go uptown because it was still country. So that's where you had those really large gilded type homes. And there's even still a few mansions left. But all these older style apartments on 5th Avenue, those are for people that have, you know, generational money. They want to feel like they are living in a home. They have children, most likely. Like you said, they have the doorman who hails the cab like that.
Okay, so that's the interior shot.
So duplex, crystal chandeliers.
Yeah, like you said, old money style.
Yeah, old money. Yeah, even the molding, you can see there, the crown molding along the doors. Yeah, very in the coffered ceilings you have.
Okay, oh, yeah, I see that.
The very top there, when you think of old rich people in New York, this is what you think of.
It's like touring palaces in Europe
Yeah, so very, very similar.
with these patterned wallpapers and...
Room like that.
So your verdict?
I would say 20 to 30 million, depending on the actual size and the street. But if it's on Fifth Avenue, it's probably a penthouse. It's a duplex. So yeah, anywhere from that price range.
Okay, so we are halfway to where we are.
We're halfway, believe it or not. Which is ironic because we were talking, and if you have a $2-3 million apartment that you own, you're pretty successful for all intents and purposes.
Right.
You know, you're living well. At this point, then it's that next level where it's, you know, what are these people doing? You have to own a company or you have to invest or something to really have your wealth grow like that.
I wanted to really sink our teeth into comparing a Korean apartment with what a comparably priced New York apartment would look like.
Okay, that's fun.
Okay, been to Korea before, right?
Very quickly, I was there for about a week in 2019.
You did a video with the Asiana Airlines?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so you have a base idea of what the city feels like.
I do, but real estate I have no idea what to expect for real estate.
Okay. For $1 million, this is an area that's comparable to maybe Upper West Side. Family area, it's near the park, but you're in a building that looks like this.
High rise, security, parking.
And then that's your floor plan. You have a little balcony, 3 bedrooms, but tiny, kitchenette and living room. And that's before renovation.
Yeah, right off the bat, this is much more than you would get in New York. I mean, again, it depends on the neighborhood, but to have 3 bedrooms for under $1 million in New York is nearly impossible. You're gonna get a 1-bedroom.
Even if it's just 800 square feet.
So the square footage, yes, that you could get something for around 800 square feet for $1 million. But the bedroom layout, it wouldn't be like that. Typically, that would be a 1-bedroom. Most likely, it would be in, say, I mean, it could be in the Upper East, Upper West, Chelsea.
So nice area.
Yeah, nice areas, definitely.
So here you get more bedrooms, but you could potentially get same footprint in a nice area in New York City for that money.
Yeah, I'd say so.
This is an apartment for about $2 million, a little under $2 million. It's 900 square foot, but now we are in an area comparable to Fifth Avenue in Seoul, Cheongdam. That's where Gangnam Style, Gangnam Style was shot. For $2 million on Upper East Side, what would you get?
Something still pretty similar, but I would say you could get a 2-bedroom, maybe a 3-bedroom in an older building. So definitely, the differences aren't huge yet.
So that's interesting because in Seoul, we have this impression that New York is just mad in terms of just ludicrous in terms of housing prices. But in fact, if you look at the upscale areas of Manhattan and compare it to the most upscale area in Gangnam, you actually are looking at...
Pretty similar.
Yeah, pretty similar.
And then again, so in New York with real estate, it's all about geography. It's where the specific apartment is that changes the price greatly.
Yeah, even just like one block.
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah.
So let's go up to $5 million. So $5 million, you are getting 2,150 square foot.
That's a large house.
These apartments this size is pretty rare in Manhattan, aren't they?
Yeah, when you get around 2,000 square feet, that's like a proper home. Like if you had that outside of New York, that's a decent sized home. So that's definitely getting to the point where it's in that luxury area.
Okay. So do you notice something about apartments in Seoul that characteristic?
Very similar. They're all new. Yeah, I noticed that when I was in Seoul where I couldn't really tell where I was. Everything looked very similar, and I noticed they were mass-produced, the high-rises.
So now you have a little lounge space here, and you have like a proper kitchen now, and
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
Terrace.
Yep. And now you have a little bit of view going on.
What area would you say this would be comparable to in New York?
Okay, this is Banpo. So this is family area with big park. It's right next to a riverfront. Like in Seoul, you've been there. The riverfront is a long parkway.
So a nice area.
Yeah.
I think in New York, you definitely get a more variety as far as the architecture. Like we were talking about, you could have a high-rise or a brownstone, or they have lofts. Like you can get very different styles for these price points. So
that's a $10 million apartment.
That's it?
That's the building. It's in a corner. So you have a view of river, Han River on 2 sides. It's at a place where river curves. And then the building is curving with the river.
The river.
So you have river view on 2 different angles. That's the floor plan.
It's a large apartment.
3,573 square feet.
This is where I'm starting to see a difference, where it's clearly much, much nicer. And I think the biggest difference for me is the ceiling height. So in New York, this would be closer to, I'd say, 15 to 20 million.
Okay, so now I'm gonna show you an apartment that you might be familiar with. Signal. It's a interesting complex. I think it's comparable to Hudson Yard in New York. So in the bottom, there's one of the biggest shopping malls in Korea with all the luxury brands. There are offices on the lower part with worse views. And then there's hotel. And then penthouses up.
Oh my gosh, that's the penthouse? You know, you get the views there, the double height ceilings, just the volume of the space.
This is 3,500 square feet.
So, yeah, smaller than the previous one, but it seems larger for some reason. I guess because it's an open floor plan. What we're looking at now would be comparable to something that we're in now. So it would be in that range of easily above 20 million, probably close to 30.
As a person who moved to New York with an aspiration, with a dream of being an actor, I'm just wondering, despite the $5,000 rent and the subway and the rent, why are you willing to pay this level of rent and live in New York City?
It's the opportunity. It's one of those places where, like you said, you have people living in apartments like this, and then you have people living in places like you and I lived in when we first moved here, and you're walking on the same street. So you have the opportunity to rub shoulders with people, your mentors, the people you aspire to be like. And it has industry of all types here. Every industry in the entire world has a headquarters in New York City. And the pandemic changed that a bit, but I still think in person will always prevail. New York, it's the opportunity, it's the energy. You have so many ambitious people in such a tiny concentration where that energy becomes infectious. It's contagious. Yeah. Infectious isn't the best word, it's contagious. It just...
Infectious would have been a good word before
yeah,
the COVID.
2 years ago.
오늘은 뉴욕의 슈퍼 럭셔리 아파트먼트 투어와 함께 에릭 커너버와 같이 뉴욕과 한국 부동산 비교, 그리고 우리가 아는 뉴욕을 배경으로 한 영화나 드라마에 나오는 집들이 진짜 현실적인가에 대한 재밌는 얘기 나눠봤습니다.
So if you want to see more New York City apartments, luxury and more affordable, check out my YouTube channel. It's linked down below.
오늘 나와주신 에릭님한테 감사드리고요. 오늘 조승연의 탐구생활은 여기서 마치겠습니다.
영감이.
안녕히 계세요.